Next Gen Stats has introduced a revolutionary new metric called expected rushing yards, which identifies the number of rushing yards a rusher is expected to gain on a play by evaluating the location, speed, acceleration, and direction of every player on the field, both offensive and defensive, at the time of handoff. Here are the top 10 offensive lines according to the metric from last season. We begin at number 10 with the Los Angeles Chargers. Yes, seriously, it's the Chargers, who posted a 4.3 expected yards per carry mark, which should have produced 1,452 rushing yards as a team. LA fell slightly below that, posting a rushing yards over expectation per attempt of negative 0.1 as part of a season that saw most everyone decline by these metrics. Though he's a favorite in Chargerland, Austin Eckler didn't escape blame, posting a rushing yards over expectation per attempt of negative 0.6, one of the 5 worst marks in the NFL. Even with all considered, that mix couldn't keep them out of the top 10, though they're far, 0.5 yards per attempt far, from the team they were in 2018. Keeping it in the beautiful city of Angels, at number 9, it's the Los Angeles Rams.
First down.
This team deserves some credit for clawing its way to this list. LA lost Joe Noteboom and missed him so badly, GM Les Snead was forced to trade for an inexperienced lineman in Austin Corbett. Still, the Rams posted an expected yards per carry mark of 4.3, 1/100th better than their LA counterparts. These numbers might also be the most damning information for those supporting Todd Gurley, who wasn't able to break 4 yards per carry in his final season in SoCal. Surprise! At number 8, it's the Detroit Lions. If Matthew Stafford had just been available for a full season, things might have been different in the Motor City, but alas, we're here only to tout their offensive line.
Up front, Glasgow controlling things there. There's another nice block there.
Detroit made a significant leap in 2019, going from one of the worst lines in expected yards per carry at 3.8 to a top 10 unit in 2019 at 4.3. Without Stafford, opponents had little reason to fear the pass, instead stuffing running backs, resulting in Detroit's negative 0.4 rushing yards over expectation per attempt. Things should be better with Stafford back in 2020. We move to the Hoosier State for our 7th best line, which wears horseshoes on its helmets. Indianapolis posted a 4.4 expected yards per carry mark in 2019 and saw its running backs achieve slightly better than that, and that was with Jacoby Brissett serving as the Colts starting quarterback.
They pitch this to Chester Rogers, following Jack Doyle's block, and Rogers has a first down.
Add in Phillip Rivers, and we might see those numbers increase as teams may take the Colts' passing game slightly more seriously in 2020. The addition of Jonathan Taylor might also help a running game that's already privileged to run behind a starting 5 of Anthony Costanzo, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Mark Lewinsky, and Braden Smith. Those 5 have 2 seasons worth of history spent together, and it obviously isn't hurting them.
That's Murray as Armstead pulls.
At number 6, it's the New Orleans Saints, a team that scored big with its selection of center Eric McCoy and could do the same with Cesar Ruiz in 2020. But before we look ahead, let's look back at 2019. The Saints cleared the way for an expected yards per carry mark of 4.4 and saw its running backs essentially stay in line with that expectation at 0.1 rushing yards over expectation per attempt. The loss of veteran center Max Unger didn't hurt them much, and it'll be interesting to see if the loss of Larry Warford will either. Right now, this organization is doing quite well up front. The San Francisco 49ers and their multi-headed rushing attack edged out the Saints for number 5 mainly because they cleared more space for rushers before they first met a defender than the Saints did on average. Their expected yards per carry mark is the same at 4.4, but the sledding was tougher for the Niners because defenses loaded the box against them at the highest rate in the NFL. With that considered, their expected yards per carry mark is more impressive, as is their higher rushing yards over expectation per attempt mark of 0.4. It's easy to see why they won the NFC. Here's another surprise and a huge response to those blaming the offensive line for all of Atlanta's problems last season. The finger should be pointed at the running back who's no longer with the team, Devontae Freeman, not the guys up front. The Falcons line opened holes for an expected yards per carry mark of 4.4, 4th best in the NFL, while Atlanta's running backs fell 3/4 of a yard shy of that expectation per carry. Routinely, the Falcons runners underachieved. No more than Freeman, who posted a rushing yards over expectation per attempt mark of negative 1.2, the worst in the entire NFL. His replacement, Todd Gurley, wasn't much better, but maybe he'll establish a better rapport with the blockers than Freeman did. The arrival of Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray changed a lot of things in Arizona, including scheme and personnel, which vaulted the Cardinals into the top 3 up front.
Excellent job getting out on the edge, opening up room for Kirk. He doesn't get touched till he's 20 yards downfield.
Arizona's 4.5 expected yards per carry shattered the team's 2018 mark of 3.8, the highest year-to-year increase in the entire NFL. The jump set the bar high for its runners, with Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds taking advantage, gaining 0.1 rushing yards over expectation per attempt. Though it only translated to 2 more wins, the future looks bright in Glendale. The second best offensive line in the NFL achieved its mark by battling through scores of injuries, which deserves credit on its own. Philadelphia's starting 5 even saw changes at tackle due to physical ailments and inexperience, yet the Eagles still posted a 4.6 expected yards per carry mark. The running backs didn't quite rush for that average, but that also came as part of an offense that lost every viable receiving option and was scouring the waiver wire for replacements at running back too. When adversity struck, Philadelphia answered up front. Finally, at number 1, we have the league's best rushing team in 2019, the Baltimore Ravens. Are we at all surprised? Well, we can be a little, because these metrics don't take into account rushes by Lamar Jackson. So speaking specifically of rushes handled solely by running backs, the Ravens were stellar, posting an expected yards per carry mark of 4.7 and exceeding that by 0.3 yards over expectation per attempt. The Ravens will have to find a legitimate replacement for the retired Marshall Yanda, but the other 4 returners have plenty to be proud of.